Let me check that in a minute.
Yeah, I'm sitting.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm done with Zoom.
What do you say?
I'm on the Zoom, Jose.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Our house is like a seashell.
No worries.
Hey, Mike. I'm back. Guest room. I feel like I'm telecommuting again.
There you go.
How are you still at work?
I went home for a few minutes, came back.
Is it easier for you to work at work too?
Sometimes it all depends. Depends what I'm doing.
Yeah. Hey, Dwayne.
Hey,
How are
guys.
you?
Good. Living the dream.
How are you? Are you back in your home office?
I am. It's been a while since I was in here for a meeting,
Me too. I'm
but
gonna
then
share a bedroom.
it was too long. Yes, it is. Yep. I gotta make sure that what else is showing here.
It's okay. My husband just discovered Survivor, so he's downstairs watching Survivor, and the whole downstairs is like super loud. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go upstairs. But he fast forwards through like all the drama and just watches the challenges. It's pretty funny.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Angie.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Oh, this drama. You guys have Netflix? Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the series Peaky Blinders? You ever heard it? Yeah.
No.
That's a
Is it-
It's pretty good.
It's tough to get into at first,
Yep.
Yes.
but then it's really good.
What's
So
it about? Oh, sorry, Angie.
Go ahead.
So it's, I guess, how is it? It's the Irish. It's
Irish
kind of
mob.
like the Irish mafia, and it's how this one family develops. I guess they started with betting. Was it betting they started with? They got into smuggling, and it was, I don't. It's you have to get by the accents also. So you can't be running on a treadmill or on an exercise bike because it's too hard to figure out what they're saying. But
You have to pay attention to it.
and you know who actually, it's kind of ironic. The person that put me onto that one is Pat. He started watching it, and that was last year or the year before. There's for real mindless entertainment, but I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. It was on there for, and maybe it'll come back, but it was it's called An Idiot Abroad.
Oh my god, I watched that. So funny.
An Idiot Abroad, but I haven't been able to find it. When I really want to annoy Kelly, I'll put that on the TV. Ricky Gervais was the comedian, and he sends this other guy to the first episode, or the first season was the Seven Wonders, I think. And this poor guy, so it's kind of a reality show, but the poor guy never. So they send him to explore a wonder, but it's everything except the wonder that, I mean, they put him through hell. And
Yeah, that was funny.
funny.
Did you see the one Travels with My Father, I think? Where like this guy travels around with his like grumpy father. Like it's pretty funny.
No, I haven't seen it.
Mm-mm.
We just finished Schitt's Creek and now we're looking for a new series. So
Peaky Blinders.
we'll check it out. Some of the teachers in the high school in the wing that I'm in are also, they're like in the beginning of Schitt's Creek and they're all just running around all week. I think like we've hit a certain like stress level where people are now running around pretending that they're characters from Schitt's Creek. It's so funny. Mike Violi has the David rundown perfectly. Like, it's worth a trip to the 400 wing just to catch him doing that. You're just how are you doing that so well? Hey, Amanda.
God, my eyes are beaming out.
Got the spotlight on you.
I think. I'm burning my face.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Wow, Potsdam is a hot spot, isn't it, for
What's
COVID
going
right
on?
now?
Why? What's going on?
I don't know, but they jumped up. They had, I was just looking at the data. They had 8 cases yesterday and now up to 19.
Yikes.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Ouch.
that's significant.
Because Governor was higher,
Saw
Right.
that. Yeah, they were the highest, right?
not anymore.
No.
What are we, Angela, right here in Massena?
We actually dropped down to 15 active cases right now.
Better. I heard that Potsdam Hospital has like a whole COVID center set up for people that have it. I think that's where people are going now.
Hope they get that vaccine out soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And see what's for sale there. Recognize him?
Zach Bogosian?
That's when he's with Peterborough. I think he visited my daughter's class that his aunt, it would have been, or no, Sue Bogosian, right?
Oh, the name.
That'd be his aunt, right?
His aunt, yes.
Okay, do we look like we have everybody? Mike, are we streaming now?
Yes.
Okay.
Good to go.
All right.
Mike, can you give me
Okay,
all
just welcome to people
Sure.
who are looking in on us. We just completed our executive session, so we will now start our normal Board of Education meeting for Massena School District on, what is it, November 19th, 2020. So, let's start with approval of our minutes from our previous meeting in October. Could I have a motion to approve those from the board members, please?
I'll move the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussions or changes we need to worry about or can talk about? Okay, let's go ahead and show of hands for those in favor of approving our minutes. Thank you. We do have a board correspondence. Pat, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that or
Yeah, I'll
you want me
mention it.
to? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention it, Pat, if you like. Thanks and
Yeah.
welcome everyone. Welcome our administrators tonight. So we do have a letter from Sue Rao, who is former board member Andy Sutar's wife. Andy passed away in December 2018 and recently was honored with a plaque and a tree along the John Story Trail. And a couple of our trustees were able to make it that day, Trustee LeBlanc and Haggett. And it was a nice affair. And I think many of you who knew Andy remember him very, very fondly. He was a great board member who was pretty dedicated, wanted to know all that he could about board functions, and agriculture and environment were particularly his love. So Sue sent the board basically a thank you for honoring him.
Nice.
Thanks, Pat. Moving on to reports from board members. We can start with the policy committee tonight. Paul, if you want to cover your previous meeting.
Okay, yes, the policy committee met on October 22nd. We discussed one Erie 1 policy recommendation, and I'll just touch on some of the high points. It was privacy and security for student, teacher, and principal data. It's a policy that we reviewed toward the beginning of this year, calendar year, but was interrupted by the pandemic, basically. It was originally required by education law to be adopted by July 1st, but that was pushed back. The date for that was pushed back by the pandemic. It basically puts into policy limits to which personal data of employees and students can be shared, and requires third-party software vendors to follow those same rules. Creates positions of the position of data privacy officer, which is Mr. Brady's now highly paid position. The policy has to be posted to the district website, has to be linked to records retention policy that we adopted last month. And it's up for a first reading this evening. In other business, we continued our review of the business operations policies, including updated language for 5680, which is safety and security, 5681, school safety plans, and 5682, cardiac defibrillators. And those are all up for first readings tonight because there were varying levels of language changes to those policies. We also looked at 5683 fire and emergency drills and bomb threats and bus emergency drills, and 5685, the Safe Schools Initiative. There were no changes to those policies, and therefore they are up for on tonight's agenda for adoption. We have our next meeting via Zoom coming up this coming Monday.
Any questions for Paul? Okay, thank you, Paul. Next with the Facilities Committee, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, the
about
facilities,
your recent activities.
the facilities committee met on the 26th of October. I'm not going to get into the construction, the capital project construction discussions. We're going to hear about that after. The capital outlay for 2020, 2021, the transportation facility, that would be the fuel dispenser replacement. We're working through that, and I'm not sure today was supposed to be the bid opening. I don't know if that occurred, and Pat can weigh in on that if it did or didn't.
Yeah, that ended up getting delayed, Kevin, but Ed will talk about the new date we have coming up.
Okay.
A little bit later.
Okay. And the only other item outside of capital project or the capital outlay project was the of significance was the John Story Trail. That what we've decided as to pave the trail, but it will be listed as an alternate in the phase 2. And what that will do is help us get a definition of what that's going to cost and what if we can proceed with that, considering the donation at hand. That's that.
The only thing I'd elaborate on that with Kevin, and thanks for bringing that up, because that I think was an important point to bring up in some things in a topic we've heard in the community. We did do a survey, a community survey, to see about the interest in paving John Story Trail, which gets used all the time by our community. We had a good response. 529 people responded to our online survey, and 67.3, just under 70%, were interested in paving the trail. But we also talked to some of the members who use the trail, and also our phys ed teachers and our cross-country coach. And there seems to be an interest there as well. But as Kevin pointed out, we want to be sure that the cost isn't prohibitive, because it's a generous donation of $50,000, but we know it's going to be more than that. And so we want to put it in the project as an alternate. It is aidable, and see what, what will be the bid on it. So it wouldn't be in the base bid, it'll be on an alternate. So a value will be placed on that when we get to bid day. And then we have the choice at that point of whether we feel that the money is worth paving for this trail for community use.
Pat, do you foresee not just the initial cost of the trail, but would we get costing for maintenance and repair to upkeep it over 10 years, 20 years, whatever it would be? Would that be part of the bid?
It wouldn't be part of the bid, but it would be something that would need, I think is a good point, to be known at that time, that there are additional costs as well. And Greg Tessier, our Director of Operations, has put some values together on that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Kevin? All right. I don't have anything for me tonight, so we'll move on to reports from administration. Mr. Brady.
All right. Thanks, Pat. First of all, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our new junior high principal. Amanda Zullo is here tonight. If you want to wave there, Amanda. She's been on, it feels like she probably feels like she's been on for a year, but she's only been on for about a month, but it's been since the last board meeting. And so tonight we wanted to officially introduce Amanda to the Board of Education. As I'd written to you, Amanda is from Saranac Lake. She served 12 years as a middle level science teacher, so she knows that age level very well. A couple years with the state ed department, working on curriculum and instructional standards, and also a couple years with the CVS BOCES as an instructional coordinator, much like the type of work that our Stephanie does for us, who's on with us tonight as well. So we welcome Amanda. Amanda, anything you want to say to welcome yourself to the board? Oh, you're muted.
No, that was about it. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and it's been great. So good team here.
Hard for us to sound real sincere with our welcome over Zoom.
So I'll move on to our COVID-19 update. I've been every week sending a lot of information out to the board, to the community on this. It's important that everybody has a good communication because obviously this is a, hold on, I got Alan Oliver coming in. There we go. Obviously in the midst of a serious healthcare issue here. This is the second wave, and just like across the state and country, we're seeing increases here in the county and in Massena. Today I met with the Village Emergency Operating Council. They are reconvening now and meeting every week. It's leaders from business, government, education, and coming together to look at and healthcare to look at our response and what needs to be done to coordinate. As of today, there were we just got these figures in from Angie, just sent these to me to update. One second. We have 15 cases in Massena currently. And we have, let's get out of there 1 second. 128 cases overall in the county with 9 hospitalizations. Last week, we met with Public Health, the Director of Public Health, Dana McGuire, the head of the Board of Health, Dr. Williams, as well as the County Administrator, Ruth Doyle. And we met twice with them. We meet with them frequently in order to coordinate our response across school districts. This was with the regional superintendents, and they give us update, and we have conversations about where they feel we are. At that point, last Friday, we were at 1%, 7-day rolling average for infection rate at 1%. And I think some of you know that the New York State has put out guidelines, Department of Health, that a 3.5% infection rate in a locality, which could be Massena, a zip code, or about 15 new cases in that locality. This isn't countywide. This is within a largely a township. 3.5% or 15% would cause us to be in the yellow zone, and we would need to then look at closing down schools for 2 weeks and starting to test at least 20% of our in-person staff and students. So that's kind of the metric. We follow that metric. We follow the advice from public health as well. I think you're also aware that we've had junior high and high school due to positive cases there. We have extended the remote learning for all students to November 30th, the day we get back from the Thanksgiving break. We did have our Seaway Tech students come back for a very short period of time, and then Seaway Tech had a positive case there, and so they're now all remote. When we get into these remote situations, we try as much as we can to keep our complex learners. When I say complex learners, I mean learners who don't learn well. Not that many people do learn well from the remote learning, but particularly don't respond well to remote learning. That would include our Seaway Tech students because of the hands-on nature of that curriculum, as well as many of our special ed programs. And we're continuing to run, we continue to run those programs even when students are remote. All three of our elementary schools remain open. You know, knock on wood, at this point, we have not had any further positive cases there. And so we're trying to do a measured approach in the midst of all this, is to not take an approach where we're going to close all schools en masse, but rather as cases come up, we would take a look at that. And really the reason that we've closed the junior high and high school isn't the number of cases, it's the number of people who've had to quarantine, so we don't have the staff in order to be able to keep them open. One of the things that Dr. Williams mentioned, and I'm going to share my screen here for a moment. Let's see. Dr. Williams, who's the head of the Board of Health. When we met with him, we asked them, we asked these officials, would they like to see the school districts close down schools for a while because they are public health has so many numbers, and it's difficult for them to contact trace. And we, for our employees and our students, the district, our nurses, particularly our head nurse, have been doing that contact tracing for them so that we don't have students and staff showing up to work the next day when they should be quarantined because they were a contact to a positive person. So we're doing that work for them. And their response was no, because not at this time, because really it's what they're seeing with schools. And I think you're hearing this more and more, is that it's the infections that are happening in the community in people's homes and various gathering places that is causing the spread. And then when people come into school infected is when we have cases here. But they stated that since schools opened in the county, all schools in the county opened in September, they've only had about 5 or 6 times where the virus was actually spread from one person to another in our school facilities, in any school across the county, 1 or 2 times in a classroom and some in the rest of them on buses. Here's an article that this was in North Country Now tonight. You can see Thursday here, where Dr. Williams stated, he said, the scientific information shows that when kids catch the coronavirus, they tend to catch it at home from a family member and then bring it in, and continues to say that schools are really, at this point, one of the safer places because we are putting measures in place. Staff and students are to wear masks, they're to social distance as much as possible. There's a lot of hand sanitizing going around, and because of those reasons, as he says here, student-to-student transmission is rare, and even more rare is student-to-adult transmission from what they're seeing through there. And they see the bigger picture. We see Massena, they see all of it at the county level. And that bears out to what we're seeing state and nationally too. And that's why seems to be the big question now is, okay, so there's a push in some places to close schools, but bars and restaurants remain open, where those are where you're seeing more of the transmission. And I'm not advocating for closing businesses down. I'm just making the point that's being made by others that just to close a school doesn't mean it's going to make anything more safe, because that's not where they're seeing the spread. And that's kind of the approach we've taken to it. That approach could change if we continue to see a rise in cases, and it certainly will change if we get more infections within our schools. But particularly with the elementaries, we saw what happened when we were the school that closed down and in September, because we had this rise in cases around the Labor Day holiday. And we stayed out for a while. It was very challenging for our parents at the elementary level, the students, the staff, and we're hoping we don't have to go back to that, because there are consequences for closing schools on daycare, on families, businesses, and so that's some of the factors we have to consider. So that's that's where we are at this point. We're also putting out information to public health asked us to do, to encourage families to, as we get into the holidays, is to not have the larger gatherings. I know that's tough, but that's those are the types of things that will help us to flatten this curve that's been going on for a while. Questions?
Pat, I guess I have a question. What is the commentary from the community, from parents, most importantly, that you're getting at the district level, or that you're getting reports from administration?
I'm not getting a lot of comments from the community. I'm not on Facebook, though. I will say that that's a choice of mine. I mean, I look at our Facebook, but when I do get comments, I've had comments on both sides. Some feel that out of abundance of caution, we should be closing down schools until after the break. But really, you'd have to be looking at later January if you do that, because Christmas and New Year's, we come back out right after New Year's. If there are a large amount of cases, you're going to have to let that play through. And so you'd be looking at closing down until probably mid-January to see those cases play through. The other is, it just depends on who you ask, because you're going to get both sides of this, Paul. You're going to get people who want us to close down out of a bunch of caution. You're going to others who say that they feel that is a knee-jerk reaction, and that we should be just continuing to do what we're doing. I will have to say, I mean, our staff, our teachers, our administrators, we've been going at this since March. I mean, talk about coronavirus fatigue that people have. I get it. We have it. It's tough. This is not easy. And for most people, it's the toughest thing that they've probably ever had to deal with. The bright side is we're starting to hear about vaccines. And I hope, we're going to be after the first responders that will be towards the top of the list of getting those vaccines when they come out.
Well, just speaking for myself, as far as I'm concerned, from the top down, from yourself to the other administrators, right down to the teaching staff, everybody is doing the very best that they can. And I think, we seem to be handling things, in such a way that, nobody has gone into a panic, and, probably nobody thinks that everything is being handled perfectly, but I want to commend you for the way this has been handled. You're listening to, public health guidelines and the experts, and going with the science, and that seems to be working.
Thanks, Paul. No, it's not been perfect. This is not a perfect process, but everybody is really stepped up, and they're doing the best they can, for sure. All right. All right, let's move on to our capital improvement project. We have Ed's back with us from IBI, Ed Bernhauer, and we have Jim Francisconi here from CNS. And if I can find in this square somewhere, there's Rob Gray, also from CNS. So our usual cast of characters here. Thanks for coming, guys. I'll let you give us a brief update on where we are with the project right now.
Jim, I think I'll let you start with phase one. If you could go over our phase one status.
Sure. So we are at really the end of this season for phase one. We were able to close out, or we're in the middle of closing out the abatement contract. All their base contract work is completed, and they're moving on to bigger and better things. From the site work side, Paris is just finishing up a handful of punch list items, but we've already started some preliminary closeout processes with them, as well as they've been able to complete all the scope at certain schools. So we're getting gathering certificates of substantial completion for those. For the general construction contract, they have work intermittently throughout the school for next year as well. One of the key things is the insulated wall panels, which are tentatively set to deliver sometime towards the end of March. I found that information out late today. So that's something that we've reported on the past that was being, that was a delay initially. We weren't hoping to have that work done this year. But with, manufacturing delays and trying to get a custom color to match, being that it wasn't a critical item, we elected to push it off till the springtime for better weather. So that's what we're gearing towards. On the electrical scope, again, they have some intermittent work to complete for next year, but all the contractors, for the most part, are with the exception of the roofing, they are completing their punch list items for the work that they were supposed to complete this year. We had a total of about $600,000 in allowances that were all covered under the base contract combined in the different scopes of work. We're anticipating spending about less than half of that, which is good, since a lot of the work was done this year, and so essentially we have about 60% of the work complete now, and then the rest of the work to be complete next year. So I'm hopeful that we continue the trend to where overall our contract should come in under their anticipated budget spend. With the roofing, as we all know, the roofing has been delayed. We were able to get the Jefferson roof to about 99% complete. The contractor today finished the scope of work items that the manufacturer set out for them to complete so they could issue the warranty. So our next steps is to try and get the manufacturer's representative back to the site so they can actually provide us a warranty for the roof over at Jefferson. And that is the last thing for today. Ed, you want to pick up where I left off? You're muted, Ed.
Yep. What I'll do now, guys, is I'm going to share my screen. And if there's, well, I probably should ask, is there any questions on phase one from anyone? No? So we'll jump on into our other projects, and I'm going to share my screen here for a little presentation.
Ed, I can put this up for you.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, that'd be great. And the first thing that we'll talk about, if we go down, we'll talk a little bit about our capital outlay project first. We'll get into our then our capital improvements project, and then we'll just have any discussion. So if we go on to our capital outlay project page, you'll see that we did have a schedule adjustment there. We've been waiting for SED's approval, and we finally received it just this past Friday. So we were able to turn it around quickly, and we are actually out on the street, and we're bidding right now as we speak. So we had our public notification yesterday in the paper, in your legal public notice paper. And so we've already had some interest. I believe Greg Tessier already received a phone call for a tour as well from one of the interested contractor parties. So our bid opening will be in a 2-week period, which will put us right at Thursday, December 3rd at 3 p.m. for our bid opening. And again, this is one contract for the fuel system renovations over at our transportation center. And we anticipate the construction to be approximately about a week long. And it's going to, we've targeted the week of February 13th to February 21st. And that's been coordinated with your transportation director and also again with Greg Tessier, the facilities director. And again, just to kind of show you, we're replacing the fuel pump dispensers. And this is kind of a picture of what the new dispensers will look like, along with the software and head end system that controls that, as the current system is no longer being manufactured and no longer can be updated. So we're updating all of those systems. And again, as some of you may remember, this is a kind of a part 2. Last year for the capital outlay project, we did part 1 where we did replace the islands at the transportation center as well as some of the fuel line systems that was under the paving. So any questions for our capital outlay? So kind of moving on for our main capital project, again, we're happy to report that phase 1 is going really well. And in addition to what Jim was saying is none of our contract values have changed as we've been able to fit all of kind of the additional work into the field directive allowances that we have in place. And on top of that, we also have that contingency that we've set aside in our referendum, which is just under $1 million. So we actually haven't used a penny of that yet, which is great. That's all in place for phase 2, just to prepare for undiscovered conditions or things that might happen. That being said, we have $30 million set aside for our future work as part of this project. And based on that, really, that's much more work than really can be accomplished in one summer of construction. So we are splitting the project basically into what we're calling phase 2 and phase 3. And it's really kind of dividing that $30 million up into about $15 million for each summer. Phase 2, we're going to be submitting in just a few weeks here, or less than a few weeks, at the end of November. And we'll submit that to SED. And that's really going to be all of the work that's coming up this summer. SED will review it over the next few months. And we'll be out to bid in January and have our bid opening in early February for that construction. And so that'll put us in a good bidding time frame, again, for that summer work coming up. Phase 3 will then be submitted in January, and we'll have a few months for, again, that SED review. But at the end of that, we can actually bid in March timeframe because, again, this is going to be work for summer of 2022. Or we can take a look at the bid environment. If it's not a good bid environment, we can actually wait till the fall, which is also traditionally a good bid environment as well. So again, we're ahead of the curve there for that summer of 2022 construction. So we can kind of pick and choose when we'd like to go out to bid for that based on what we're seeing. So now I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what scope is being planned for this coming summer versus next summer. So for phase 2, which again is this coming summer, we are going to be doing all of the work at each of the elementary schools. So Jefferson, Madison, and Nightingale will be doing the complete scopes for each of those buildings. In addition, we're going to be doing some work at the transportation building, addressing some of the site work to take advantage of some of the other site work that's going on during the summer and hopefully getting some very aggressive bids on that site work. And in addition, we'll be doing masonry restoration and renovations to the outside of the building. At the high school, we're going to be picking up some site work. Once again, Mr. Brady mentioned part of this is the John Story Trail alternate that we'll have. And in addition to that, we're doing masonry restoration, some cleaning, brick repointing, brick replacement, masonry replacement on the exterior of the high school. In addition to that, kind of a unique item is that we're including a boiler room replacement and renovation in this phase 2. Now, in phase 3, which is coming up the summer following, we are actually including the rest of the high school work. The reason we moved the boiler room up early, though, is we want to make sure that all the elementary schools and the high school with their full mechanical system replacements have the same boiler plants and associated components. So by bidding these together, we can make sure that we get the same manufacturer for all of those. When we get down to the terminal equipment, such as the air handling units themselves, it's a little less important that the particular manufacturer is the same, because the control system there, we're verifying that that's all going to be consistent from project to project. So that boiler room, we did manage to move up into the phase 2 items. But in this phase 3, as I said, we'll have the rest of the remaining scope for the high school. And then we'll have all of the junior high school scope, all of the central administration renovations that we've been reviewing, and then also the remaining scope at the transportation building, which would primarily involve some electrical work and some mechanical systems work. So from there, I guess I would open it up to any questions anyone would have.
Ed, how long do you think we're going to be looking at SED review for this phase 2?
So I believe we're going to be doing an expedited review for phase 2. And currently what we're seeing is about a 6-week time frame, 4 to 6 week time frame. Sometimes it's shorter, and so I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed, but that's kind of the worst case scenario based on the expedited reviews we've been seeing.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you very much.
And James. Thanks.
Yep. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too. So moving on to the MCSEA contract is on the agenda for ratification tonight. As you know, our MCSEA represents our employees in transportation, food service, buildings, grounds, clerical, nursing, teacher aides. We have been successful in reaching a 1-year contract with them on salary only. And as I said, it's on the agenda for board approval tonight. So hopefully be glad to get that labor contract completed and have them with a current contract. Also, moving on to the St. Lawrence Lewis Health Insurance's directors meeting 4 times a year. There is a meeting of both the Workman's Comp Board and the Health Insurance Board. I represent the district there, and Nick Brulette, our business manager, is the alternate. And this board represents the 13 school districts that are part of our health insurance plan currently, along with the BOCES. And they had a meeting on the 29th. I sent you some information on that. In terms of workman's compensation, the plan is in good shape overall. They have a cash balance of about $4.6 million. They are seeing less claims in workman's comp since COVID started, and though they don't set the rates until February, if nothing changes, they would be looking at a 0% increase in the rates for workman's comp for our consortium at that time, which will be good news. I think we all know that our budget, the state budget situation is looking pretty grim this year, and any savings we can mete out anywhere is really important. So that's what we're seeing with workman's comp. They are seeing the first quarter numbers come in quite well, and they're 25% below budget at this point after the first quarter of the year. I also gave you just kind of a list of what our workman's comp claims have been since 2016-17. You saw the pretty significant decrease last year in 2019-20. We had budgeted $370,000 and we spent $228,000. Our first quarter this year is $73,589, and that's the first 3 months starting in July, August, and September. That's lower than it was last year at $77,000. And we're below the 4-year average of $85,000. So we're seeing in Massena the same type of trend that the plan is seeing as far as lower claims. One of the things I will mention, Greg was on with us earlier. I know in his department of buildings and grounds is an area that you might get claims based on the nature of the work. He's been doing a lot of focus on staff training to avoid injuries. We've been doing some Utica National training videos with staff. And I think that combined with some of the pandemic issues, we're starting to see a better trend. So that's workman's comp. In a similar way, I sent you the information on the St. Lawrence Health Plan. At that meeting, they mentioned that the transition to Excelis as our administrator is now fully complete. We no longer have the in-house administration of the plan. Excelis has taken over administration. They also now have completed the withdrawal of Canton, Edwards Knox, and OFA from the St. Lawrence Lewis plan. And each were given a prorated share of the existing fund balance minus any outstanding claims and administrative costs. So though all three of them left last year for different plans, and that process has been complete. Overall, they've been seeing some pretty significant decreases in claims and health insurance as well during COVID. Less people are going to the doctor for elective surgeries. And there's been more of an input on televisit to stay out of doctors' offices. So they've seen a pretty dramatic decrease in outpatient services and non-emergent surgeries. And that's led to about a 30 to 35% decrease in our health insurance expenses from April through June. One of the things they are concerned about is that with the significant number of people avoiding the doctor's office, they're concerned about people getting the appropriate preventative screenings and preventative visits that could be costly later in terms of people's health and the healthcare costs. So that's just something to consider. But at this point, for the upcoming plan, again, these rates are set in February. They're looking at a 2% or less increase in our health insurance plan for 2021-22. So that's the overview for health insurance and workman's comp. Any questions? Next on my list, I'm requesting that the board allow us to create a teacher assistant position. I'll explain that, why we were requesting to add this position. There are certain certifications that are very difficult to attract to any school district in New York State, if not anywhere, in the North Country in particular. That would be secondary special education, that would be technology, that would be family consumer science. Many of our science teachers, we've been challenged with that as well. So when we had a retirement last year at the junior high school for technology, we have been advertising and have not been able to fill it with a qualified candidate. And so this year we found a substitute that could come in until we could continue our efforts there. This substitute is who's going to be certified elementary, is interested in technology. He has a passion for that, and he wants to work towards his technology degree so they can be certified to teach. What we'd like to do is to incentivize that. He just received his teacher assistant certificate, would be to incentivize it by having him, rather than being a substitute, put him in as a teacher assistant working under the other teacher, tech teacher at the high school. And they would work together, and he would, while he's a teacher assistant, continue to teach classes until he can become certified. It's kind of growing our own in these cases where it's not easy to find these certifications. We've done that already at the high school, and we have someone close to secondary special ed certification there. And we're currently looking at doing it again for secondary special ed at the high school as well. I think these are the types of actions we have to take in the midst of a teacher shortage. So I'm recommending that the board allow for the creation of this teacher assistant position. And it's less costly that we currently have a teacher opening there that is in the budget. So it's less costly at this point than having a teacher in that position. Certainly not as good that we don't have certified, but this is our best alternative, plan B. Kristen, did I miss you somewhere?
I don't know. I can't see the agenda on my iPad.
Yes.
Yes, she would have been after the phase 2 capital improvement.
The education leaders grant opportunity.
Yes, I'm very sorry, Kristen. You know how rude I can be at times.
You're on a roll, Pat.
Why was I rude?
Okay.
Was I rude to you today? Is that what you're saying?
No, you were on a roll. You just kept going with the agenda.
Kristen, why don't you help me out here?
Sure. I was, I guess, requesting approval from the board to submit a proposal for an education leaders grant opportunity that's ready to go. It's to the No Kids Hungry food or No Kid Hungry funding opportunity. And what it's looking to do is really similar. It's just a slightly different application from the application that we submitted to partner with the St. Lawrence Health Initiative to become a nutrition hub. So we would be working with the Health Initiative again to contract with Sarah Bentley Garfinkel, who may sound familiar from the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities program, to coordinate food access programs in Massena. So it would be working with the school as well as all of the churches and community partners that are providing food and meals, hot meals, weekend food to families that need it. And the advantage for the school would be that part of the position would be working to increase the number of students and families that we have signed up for the free and reduced meal program. So we'd be looking to increase participation in our Monday lunch distribution for the rest of this year, and then helping families sign up for and encouraging, knowing if they're eligible, assisting with that process for our free and reduced lunches. So the funding amount is $75,000, and it would go from January to January. Pete Bertrand and I actually had a call from the funder for the nutrition hub submission. Apparently they had so many applications that they were weeding through the applications. And Pete and I got to talk with them on a call to explain our proposal. And the person that we talked to felt like it was a really strong proposal and wanted to see it get funded. So it's working its way through the system. The difference with this opportunity is that there's a component for sustainability that's added. And in that we would work with BOCES Food Service to provide some training and technical assistance for other school districts that wanted to put together food hubs for their school districts and coordinate food access programs. And that one is due tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions?
Kristen, I see we're partnering with the county, but is it actual money coming from the federal government or state government?
Well, we would be partnering with a non-for-profit. So the St. Lawrence Health Initiative, they're out of Potsdam, but they cover the county.
Right.
And the funds are, I believe it's the No Kid Hungry program, and they get funding from corporate donations.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Kevin, do you have-
And Kevin, oh, sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, I just.
Yeah.
There
What is
wouldn't be,
this?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what is the $75,000 for specifically?
Yeah.
Where will
It would
go?
pay for a lot of Sarah's staff time. So we would have her working with our district for a few days a week. And it would cover her travel, outreach, meetings for our community partners, as well as there would be a cost included to design some materials to encourage families to sign up for the programs.
And Sarah is she one of our current employees?
No, she works for the St. Lawrence Health Initiative for a partner organization. We have experience working with her through the wellness grants that we've had. And we've been partnering with that organization for most of the last 15 years in different grants.
Okay.
Yeah, where you'd find the Iron Chef with Sarah Bent, all that Iron Chef work at the county level, bringing students together was her. And through that set, all of the work with our wellness committee that we received that grant for $12,500 a year for each year for 4 years. I think they cut it off the last year. It was supposed to be 5 years, but with all the PE equipment and putting on the staff wellness days and all that, that's Sarah. Yeah, she's pretty well known in the district to our employees.
The Health Initiative is an organization that's entirely grant run. So they have a lot of experience writing grants and administering them. They're really good partners for us to have. And they also have really, really good follow through and they do nice work.
So it's a consolidation of our food distribution efforts among different community partners, including the school.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Kristen?
That's all I've got for now. Thanks.
Okay. And the last point that I have would be we have several generous donations to the district. You see the list of them there. Tim Horton's donations to Madison Elementary, some Mass United Way, $1,000. AMVETS, we had some anonymous donations for the cab passes that we use for our students and some of our parents. Fidelis, 500 Children's Mass, and also Normal LaPointe with Children's Mass as well. So we really appreciate all of the donors for what they do for us. You know, I misspoke. The Tarbell management that those were donuts, right, Danielle?
Yes, they donated donuts for our students for Halloween.
For Halloween, right? That was the first one. Yeah. Okay, and that's it for me, Pat.
I was muted. Sorry about that. Thanks, Pat. Nick and Mallory, I can see you guys are on, so if you wouldn't mind going over your reports, please.
Yep. So tonight, all I have is the budget status and budget transfer reports. Year to date, we've brought in $20.5 million. We've expended $13.7 million, and we have $35 million encumbered for the rest of the year. And then you'll see a couple of budget transfers to cover expense categories that went over, including one for unemployment related to the pandemic mostly. Mallory?
On the October Treasurer's Report, the month started with $40 million, cash receipts of $5.2 million, cash disbursements of $5.3 million, ending October with $40.8 million. And on the BOCES claims audit report, one warrant was verified in the amount of $2.2 million, 5 claims total audited with no errors. There was not a general claims report. The auditor has been out and didn't have access to complete it, so that'll go next month.
Very good. Any questions for Nick or Mallory? Okay, we'll move on to recommended actions. We'll start with first readings of these policies. Policy 5676, privacy and security for student data and teacher and principal data. Policy 5680, safety and security. Policy 5681, school safety plans, and policy 5682, cardiac automated external defibrillators, AEDs, in public school facilities. May I have a motion to approve those group of policies for first reading?
I'll move those policies.
Second.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions on those? In that case, all those in favor, please. Thank you. I think that's everybody. The second group of policies are second readings or adoption. So it's policy 5670, records management, policy 5684, use of surveillance cameras in the school district, policy 3520, extraordinary circumstances, policy 6570, remote working, policy 7150, remote learning, policy 6550, leaves of absence, and policy 8241, patriotism, citizenship, and human rights education. So again, a motion for the approval of those and adoption of those policies, please.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All those in favor then, please. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passed. Next item are for review only. It's policy 5683, fire and emergency drills, bomb threats, and bus emergency drills, and policy 5685, safety schools initiative. Do we still have to pass those with a vote if we're just reviewing? I don't know.
I think so, because they're.
We usually do,
Yeah, we do.
annually.
They're on the agenda for approval.
Yeah. Any questions on those? Oh, I need a motion first, sorry. Thank you.
So moved.
A second. A second. Second, anybody?
Second.
All right, thanks, Amber. Any questions on those? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Next item on the approvals list is the donations, and as Pat mentioned earlier, you know, we thank the companies and the individuals and the community in general for all the donations and the generosity they show us. So with that, may I have a motion to approve our donations, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Next would be a resolution for approval of the MC SEA contract for 2021, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? All right, the motion does pass. Next item, let's see. Approval of the resolution to abolish bus monitor position. Nope, let me back up. Sorry. Approval of the Massena Central School District Safety Plan first.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor then? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. The motion does pass. Now we'll move on to the resolution to abolish a bus monitor position.
So moved.
Second.
As a point of information, Pat,
Yep.
this position is being abolished because this was a monitor for one student that was necessary, and that student has moved, and so we no longer need that position.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that? All those in favor then, please show of hands. Thank you. Next is approval of resolution to establish the teacher assistant position discussed earlier.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion or questions? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Approval of the budget status report.
So moved.
And second. All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the budget transfer report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the treasurer's report for October 2020.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Second.
Show of hands for favor. Thank you. Approval for the internal claims audit report for BOCES for October 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the CSE CPSE report.
So moved.
All those in favor? Thank you. Overlap. And last item for approvals will be personnel actions. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Brady, please.
Thanks, Pat. Unless anybody wants any of these broken out, I'll recommend the personnel action items 1 through 23 on the personnel action items list.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay. Personnel actions are passed. With that, any new business from board members? Very good, then I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Or I'll
take that
second
as
it.
a second. Okay. All those in favor then. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks
Good night, all.
If I don't see you, have a great
All right.
Thanksgiving with your family.
Yes, everybody.
Small groups only.
Good night, everybody.
Good
All
night.
right. Thanks, Angie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Body. Yoy.
You laugh. I think as long as you're the last one, I think you automatically.
Oh, shh.
No, he's still here. He's still there.
Where is he?
Oh, no, maybe not.
No, He's not.
You should still have host if you're the last
Crap.
one.
I can't reclaim host. Host me, maybe.